Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Mustang Basketball with Brad Bigler. I'm your host, Kelly Loft, Athletic Communications Director at Southwest Minnesota State University. And once again this week, we've got a great show lined up. We're going to take a look at highlights from the Mustangs' split last weekend against St. Cloud State and Minnesota Duluth. We'll talk about the games with the head coach, Brad Bigler, and we'll also preview this weekend's games versus Northern State and Minnesota State University Moorhead, which will be on the road. And Coach joins us after another grueling weekend in the Northern Sun Conference. The Mustangs splitting a pair of games at home. Mustangs losing 71-69 to St. Cloud State. Huskies rallying in the last couple of minutes to get that victory over the Mustangs, but Southwest rebounds and beats Minnesota Duluth 76-64 on Saturday. So the Mustangs now 8-8 overall and 5-4 in the Northern Sun Conference. And the Mustangs midweek playing at the University of Sioux Falls. This taping right before we head down to Sioux Falls, so we won't talk about that game, but we'll take care of that during the next week's show. But Coach, the last couple of weekends, if the Mustang fans didn't see what happened at Winona and Upper Iowa, or the Mankato Concordia games at home back in December, this was kind of a microcosm of that. You played very well for 35 minutes against St. Cloud State. Give your guys a lot of credit for that, but got to give a lot of credit to St. Cloud, battled back and kind of stole that victory away from you guys.
And St. Cloud at the end, we've said probably too many times they made the plays that we didn't make. I thought, the one thing, there was a lot of frustration coming from me that night, and one of the biggest reasons is as a team, our body language was not where it needs to be a high-caliber team. And it starts off getting prepared, mentally prepared. We were winning throughout the game versus St. Cloud, but I think as a coaching staff, we would have said we wouldn't have felt that same way. We were just barely holding on, did not play at a high level of intensity, and which is unusual because this team can really bring it on the defensive end when they want to. And unfortunately, on Friday night, we were not where we needed to be.
Well, you talk about that, and let's elaborate. Obviously, we've got some very good, talented basketball players on this squad, but over the years since when you started here as a player, we're maybe not going to have the most talent against a lot of the teams we play, but what you talked about is bringing that attitude, not only the starters, but the bench as well, and that's what works for Mustang basketball, and it's worked for the 15 years you've been here, and that's probably what you're saying, just kind of lacked a little bit, but it came back on Saturday.
And we did. We bounced back on Saturday, really challenged them as far as their leadership and as far as their passion, and I thought our guys responded. I thought overall 1 through 17, the guys on the roster were mentally ready, were loud, were communicating, had energy, a different approach, and sometimes it's that approach that's going to give us the edge. Like you said, we're not always going to have the most talent, so we have to find a way to be the best team, and that's being unselfish. That's working harder than other teams, and we have to take pride in that.
And I think one thing I was going to kind of ask, what are those traits that you need to win, but you just kind of mentioned that, but it's just that attitude, everybody on the court, and even if you're not playing as well, and having that communication, and you kind of touched on it, but what are some of those things that you look for in a player that you need? Is it, even if you're not scoring, still keeping your head up and helping your teammates?
Yeah, and we talk a lot about being invested, even when you're not in the basketball game. I think there's times where in sports in general, where a guy's not on the floor, not on the field, it's easy for them to be selfish and easy for them to not really have the big picture in mind. And we talk a lot about having the big picture and the fact that, celebrate with your teammates. When they do something well, you got to be there to celebrate with them, enjoy that moment for them. And then when your opportunity comes, then you rise to the occasion, make the play, and they'll do the same for you. I think those special teams find a way to be unselfish. You hear about it all the time with regards to buying into your roles and playing to your strengths. And those special teams that can do that, especially at the end of the year, make the most of what they can do. And that's all we want to do.
Well, of course, in the game on Friday against St. Cloud State, Mustangs played very well on the defensive end, held a 5-point lead at halftime, limited the Huskies to just 30% shooting. St. Cloud heated up in the second half, shot 52%, and the Mustangs, though, shot 52% as well, but a stretch there by the Huskies with about 5 minutes to go. They took the lead, you battled back, had a chance to tie it. An offensive goaltending was called, so you couldn't tie the game up in the last 10 seconds or so. But, talk about we'll touch on first the offensive side of things, because it's a stat that continues to be very impressive by the Mustangs. You lead the conference in field goal shooting, and now second in scoring, just behind St. Cloud State. But on the offensive end, you guys are continuing just to get great looks to the basket, and guys taking smart shots, and that's leading to a high percentage of shooting.
And just repeating myself, I've said a lot of times, it's a compliment to our guys to play unselfish, to buy into attacking the rim, creating easy opportunities for teammates, and playing to your strengths. When you have a kick-out situation, sometimes it's better to give up or to attack that rim off of closeout and into space, and then to try to make a play rather than firing up a contested three. And our guys have bought in, and the results are paying in. I mean, we're seeing the results.
Yeah, of course. And the negative side of the ball game on that Friday night, and you talk about how many more points you could score, is just the turnovers. And it's not, you're going to have turnovers. You're an aggressive team, and you have some playmakers. But 19-9 or 16-9 with the turnovers, they took advantage and scored you by 10 more points on turnovers, and that's really the difference in the game. And it's just the inopportune times, it seemed like it's cost the Mustangs here in the last month or so on some turnovers.
And the turnovers have been a big factor in the reason why we're at right now 8-8. We've had way too many turnovers. And it's not only just the turnovers, it's the turnovers that lead to easy points from the other team. Those are the ones that just kill you at the end of the day when you're looking at the stat sheet. And we have to find a way to clean those up.
Well, it's looking at some of the numbers for the Mustangs. Mustangs shoot, as I mentioned, 49% for the game. 4 players in double figures. Nick Smith, 20 points and 10 rebounds, had a team-leading 4th double-double in that game. And we should talk about some of the bench play for your guys. And we've seen a lot more minutes this past weekend of redshirt freshman David Condon. Is a big presence underneath, scored his first basket against Minnesota Duluth. But talk about the decision to play Big C here in the last weekend, and if we expect to see more of that here in the next month or two.
Well, going into the weekend with Duluth and St. Cloud, with just their overall size, we felt that it was an opportunity for him to give him a chance. And I thought he responded well. Again, with David, there's some things there. We have to try to protect him a little bit, but on the defensive end, we threw in some zones, we threw in some double teams, but I thought he rebounded well, he moved well. He did a great job. He responded really well, and he's deserving of more minutes as we go forward.
Yeah, and he did get more minutes on Saturday. We flip ahead now to the Minnesota Duluth game. The Mustangs rebounding and winning 76-64. Southwest in pretty much a control most of the night. Got it to a 20-point lead in the second half, and you get the victory. They did make a run after you had about a 16-point lead midway through the second half, but got to be very happy. Another balanced attack. You had 5 players in double-figure scoring. You shoot 62% in the first half, 61 in the second, and really just another high-scoring game against UMD, which has kind of been the norm here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's where UND or Duluth, they have the ability to score points. Brett Irvin, when he comes to our gym, I don't know what it is. He looks like maybe the best player in the conference at times, and very talented player. And then they surround him with some other good players as well, with Hanstein and Zoli, guys who can put up points, and they're a talented team. I'm just glad that we came out with that different body language. That was the big thing. We were flying around, being more aggressive on the defensive end. We just looked sharper on the offensive end. As a group effort, our attention to detail was a lot better.
In the game, one of the numbers that kind of stood out for me, 5 of 8 from three-point range. You shoot 61%, which shows the shot selection was there. You didn't have to settle for three-pointers. And, a lot of that has to do with some of the guys coming off the bench that maybe aren't three-point shooters, but it just shows that, we can get points in the paint and those mid-range jumpers, and that, of course, leads to guys like Lavion West stepping up and hitting that 15-footer.
And Lavion played really well on Saturday night. Just his overall presence on both ends of the floor was felt. He's a big factor in our success, and it showed on Saturday night. Going back to just the action to the rim. Sometimes, as a group, we see how other teams are defending us, where they're coming from their help. And Duluth, on the other hand, they were really locking up on the perimeter. So that gave opportunities for Bernard Birch and Tremel Barnes to turn the corner and get more layups. And I thought they took advantage of that early, which then Duluth had to adjust, and then other guys had opportunities later on.
And again, the Mustangs cut their turnovers down to just 11. And again, the Mustangs forcing 11 turnovers and limited the Bulldogs to 44% shooting. Again, 5 Mustang players in double figures, 18 points for Jordan Miller. He had 8 rebounds. Nick Smith, 13 points, 6 of 9 shooting. And Coach, last year he's a second-team all-conference honoree, but Nick really establishing himself, as an offensive, very good, one of the top offensive centers in the conference, and still working there, doing well on the defensive side as well, getting some block shots, but he's really shooting well here in the last, since Christmas in these last 4 games.
And to get him going, I thought a lot of our guys were getting him easy buckets. But now here recently, he's been scoring a lot more one-on-one situations. I think you see his confidence coming back. And I think a lot of that goes back to, one, maybe him not being so hard on himself. Early on, he was having such high expectations of himself. If the ball wasn't dropping, he was being really hard on himself. I think, as you saw this last couple weeks, he's just been able to kind of go through that, has handled adversity better, and just his overall body language and the way his approach has been a lot better.
Well, it is lots of highlights to talk about and view here from this last weekend between the Huskies and the Bulldogs. And we'll start off with our contest against St. Cloud State on Friday night at the RA facility. And the Mustangs here in the first half going right to left here on defense and come out with zone to start off the game.
And that's where we threw out a new zone in both games this weekend. Just trying to get teams to maybe stand a little bit, catch them off guard. I thought it worked versus St. Cloud. They took some contested threes, and they were standing a little bit. Again, you're going to see here that was a good shot by Trammell. But we're going to show again coming back into that zone. And it's not something that we're going to use through large portions of the game, but just something to throw a wrinkle in and for defenses to have to adjust.
Like you said, it just changes up the offense for the other team and slows them down, and that's what you're looking for. And that's the whole point of defense, is making it tough for the opponent.
And right now, our man-to-man defense has been better, but we're definitely not winning ball games with our man-to-man defense. So we have to have those change-ups to keep teams off balance.
Mentioned Nick Smith, 20 points and 10 rebounds, 9 of 11 from the field. Hits that hook shot, and here's Nick again, a nice pass from Trammell Barnes, and the Mustangs with 5 3-pointers in the game, and here's one of them with Jordan Miller at the bottom of the screen.
And a great pass by Nick Smith on the kick-out.
Matt Zager had 12 points on 5 of 8. He's driving down the right side of the lane and puts it up from about 10 feet. Mustangs shoot 46% in this opening half. 3 3-pointers. Miller, great pass, and that great extra pass to Giddings. And you know what? Could have maybe forced up a layup, but he makes the extra pass, and the Mustangs, Will Giddings hits a 3.
Matt Zager with a nice cut. Nick with the handoff.
And then Nick again handing it here and makes that extra pass to Trammell Barnes, who, when he's feeling it, that 15-footer, he can make it with the best of them. And Smith again with a big night, and this is a tough hit, fade away from 15 feet. And then Nick Smith once again, junior from Johnston, Iowa. You'll take that one-on-one anytime.
And what I like is just his patience with the basketball right now. He feels comfortable with the basketball. He's setting people up with cuts. There you see Jordan Miller finding Will Giddings on the baseline for a nice dunk.
Mustangs with 15 assists in this game. Here's Zager drilling a 3 off a pass from Lavion West. Then you mentioned Bernard Birch. He had 13 points and driving to the basket here, which he did all weekend long.
And the look on the scouts of both teams, it looked like they were going to make our point guards finish. And I thought throughout the night, both Bernard and Trammell did a great job of doing so.
Again, the Mustangs lead by 5 at half, and there's Barnes hitting that 15-footer. And the Mustangs held the lead for much of the second half until just under 6 minutes left. Here's Zager driving. The Mustangs with 30 points in the paint, the same as St. Cloud State. And here's a turnover, and the Mustangs come back the other way. And Zager, dribble drive, and makes the extra pass. And there's Barnes again with the jumper. Trammell, 3 of 6 from the field, had 3 steals and 6 points in the game.
Tough shot by Bernard Birch right there. And in that second half, we got it going a little bit, and I thought give St. Cloud credit. They were changing up their defenses on us, and I thought we could have gotten some better looks. There was a stretch where they really were causing us havoc, and just kind of with maybe some confusion. But we'll definitely prepare for that for this weekend.
Mustangs continuing here. Nick Smith, who leads the conference in field goal shooting, gets one there off the window. And then Miller with a tough one in the paint. And this is the closing part of the ball game here. Good extra pass for the Mustangs and reverse layup by Zager. Great pass by Jordan Miller. And again, Southwest leading. St. Cloud took their first lead with just under 6 minutes to go, actually 5.5 minutes, and then it was kind of back and forth. And big three here by Miller, who stepped up and hit a couple of big ones here back to back, and got back into this game after he trailed by about 6 points with just a couple of minutes left.
And throughout the whole weekend, I thought Jordan Miller's shot selection from three, he took all high percentage shots, and his percentages showed it.
And here's the last couple plays. Nick Smith with the hoop, and then here comes the play that chance to tie it, but Mustangs called for a goaltend.
Bernard gets a great touch. Nick's just being active on the boards, and from that angle, it's tough to tell. I'm sure they made the right call, and it's just a mistake on my part with the clips. But yeah, it was a tough call, and unfortunately, we couldn't get the two previous layups or tip-ins going prior to that. But definitely had a look to tie it.
Yeah, definitely. Close call could go either way. All three of the officials, waved it off at as soon as one whistle blew. So they obviously felt that it was. But the Mustangs not able to convert on that play, and they lose by a score of 71-69. As the Mustangs did make a basket late, but come up just a little bit short, 71-69. And Coach, you've had to walk in the locker room a couple of times, 3 times in conference play now, and after tough losses, leading Mankato, Winona, and St. Cloud, 3 of the top programs in the conference and the standings, and knowing that you had a chance to win. And I suppose you don't want to talk about it, but you just got to say, hey, we got to bounce back and eventually close some of those out, which we did at Upper Iowa, and some other games that we did close out and get some wins. It's possible to get done.
And I mean, at the end of the day, you can't feel sorry for yourself. It's sports. You're going to have another game right around the corner, or you're going to sit and pout, or you're going to respond and handle adversity the right way. And this team's being challenged right now. The leadership on this team's being challenged right now. And we have a great week ahead of us to be able to put that behind us. We have 3 games. They're all in a row. They're going to be challenging games, but let's get after it, and let's see if we can go on a run here to finish the season.
Yes, and it has to start the following game after that loss to St. Cloud State, and the Mustangs did that, taking on the Bulldogs from Minnesota Duluth on Saturday, and the Mustangs get the win 76-64, and the Mustangs in the gold uniforms in this contest. And Jordan Miller, who had a team-high 18 points, starts it off with a jumper in the paint, and then he finds Matt Zager here at the top of the screen. Matt does the work.
Drives in and gets fouled. Yeah, just getting action to the rim. We always say we want to try to shoot more free throws than our opponent attempts, and or make more free throws than our opponent attempts, and that's something that we need to continue to focus on.
Very, very easy there for Bernard. Saw the opening and went right past the Bulldog defense. And Tramel Barnes, inserted in the starting lineup earlier this season, has done a nice job in that role. Both giving him and Bernard ball handling ability really gets things going for your offense, and a great shake and bake move there for Bernard Birch. Got it some oohs and ahs from the crowd, and then does what he does best and drops it off to Nick Smith for 2. Tramel 3 assists in the game, had a steal, 12 points. Bulldogs very good offensively, as you talked about, and you have to play well on the offensive floor as well, because they've got some outstanding players and can shoot the basketball.
And going into the game, we were planning on going with Irvin one-on-one. He's a guy that scores at a pretty high clip, but we just didn't want any of those other perimeter players to really get going. Zoli ended up getting going late in the half, but overall, I thought we defended Hottenstein at a pretty high level.
Miller gets open for a 3, a tough hit, drills that off the pass from Tramel. And then Lavion West did not score the past 2 games for Southwest. Gets going here in the first half, drills that jump shot, and he had a season-high 16 points. And great to see Love get going in the first half. Here's Birch driving and scoring, trying to draw contact, and then Zager, again, 2 of his 10 coming up right here.
Zager just has that ability to finish in traffic, as you saw right there, jumping around the guy, double pumps, and gets that ball to fall.
Mustangs had just 3 three-point attempts in the opening half, and Giddings with the second one, as you just saw, Miller earlier. And there's Smith going against Irvin. Gets the basket, and 1. And then Miller 7 of 10 from the field, and hits this one from the free throw line extended. Mustangs in the first half, 15 of 24 from the field, 63%.
And there's you see just Nick with that confidence. He's playing with so much more confidence in the one-on-one situation, going to those hooks, the step-throughs, and playing with better balance.
Mustangs leading 37-29 at half. Now we start up the second half, and off this end out, Jordan Miller inbounds it, fakes it, gets the ball back, and just makes a play.
Great finish by Jordan.
I mentioned the Mustangs cooling down to just 60% shooting, which is incredible still, and there's a tough 18-footer drilled by Lob. Again, 7 of 9 for the senior.
Lob with a great take, tough finish. And then you see here our press. Haven't been able to really turn people over as much this year. I think a lot more teams are prepared for the press, but there you see we get every once in a while we get that free basket or that free look by them turning the ball over to us.
A good take by Lob, just couldn't finish. That's just one of his 2 misses. Mustangs come back on the offensive end, and Nick Smith with the right hand, and then Nick to Lavion.
And you see Lavion's just in rhythm. That's the thing with him. If he's in rhythm and in balance, there's nobody in the league that's going to be able to go up and block that shot.
Bernard drives and is fouled. Now goes in and scores. And then here's Jordan Miller getting the first basket to David Condon here in the bottom of your screen. Nice to get that first one out of the way. And Miller drives, and there's Condon, goes to the hoop, reads it nice, and gets to the basket. And here's a couple of nice plays here for Lavion West, a basket, and then the alley-oop pass from Jordan Miller.
Great take by Lav. Getting to the rim and finishing. Taking advantage of that matchup.
You see Lavion here, bottom of the screen. Is against his zone and very easily throws it up and slams it down. Of course, looks easy on our end, but not the easiest to execute. But the Mustangs with the dunk. Mustangs with 40 points in the paint. And here's Smith again with 2 of his. 13 points, 6 of 9 shooting. Mustangs solid as well, 11 of 12 from the free throw line. That's a season high for free throw percentage. A nice step through by Smith. As we continue on with the highlights, and SMSU just 5 3-pointers, as I mentioned, in the second half. They were 3 of 5, and here's one of them by Matt Zager. He hit back-to-back threes here in the next couple of minutes.
And that's where Matt, at the end of the game, in the rhythm, stepping into his shot. He's shooting at a pretty high level right now.
Yeah, Miller with a tough fadeaway. And now, again, back-to-back threes, Zager and Miller, and this is where the Mustangs pushed that lead up to near 20 points. And the Bulldogs did make a run, got it to about 9, but Southwest able to answer that and get another big win. Miller with that 3. And then Lob with another basket, and then he'll take a charge on the defensive end. You can tell just spacing out, taking your time on the offensive end and getting a good shot. And despite being double teamed, Miller makes that pass, and Mustang's able to work it around quickly and find the open man.
And I think this is one of the things that we'll have to continue to look at doing is at the end of games being more patient and just getting a high percentage shot in a shot clock situation. And the clips with a couple defensive clips. Always want to put those on there when guys take charges. I think that's a big momentum play. as you're going to see right here, Lavion West is just going to step up, and he's going to get this charge right here, laying it on the line for his teammates, and great charge, followed up by DC with a good presence. Watch him get this rebound and kind of knock that Duluth player out of the way. But that fired up our team. Those little things fired up our team. As you see right here, Nick Smith's going to end up getting this block and help side, just protecting the paint like he always does, and then ended up with just one more look at that steal.
Off that steal, and the Mustangs were not able to take advantage of it scoring here, but got the steal, and that's what we're kind of a trademark here for Mustang basketball. And again, Southwest wins the game 76-64, and Mustangs now 5-4 in the conference and 8-8 in overall here this season. Now the Mustangs, again, as you mentioned, play at Sioux Falls on Tuesday night, the day that we're taping this show, so we won't talk about the Cougars matchup, but this weekend you go to Northern State and MSU Moorhead, two of the top teams in the Northern Division right now, and Moorhead team that picked to win the conference. Going to be a tough road trip. These next three games, obviously there's still a lot of basketball left, but we're going to find out a lot to see how we can continue to play on the road, and that's where championship teams, as you say, you got to win games on the road, and we have a great opportunity starting up Tuesday against Sioux Falls. And
one way of looking at it for this weekend, we played all those tough games early in the year on the road. Hopefully that's prepared us for this moment. Hopefully that's why you do it. That's why you play those challenging teams, so that at this point in the season, when you're on the road, you're not affected by it. You can go in and you can play well, play together, and come out with a win.
And again, the Mustangs then will come home to end the month of January for Hawaiian Night weekend. Mustangs take on Upper Iowa on Friday night and then host Winona State for Hawaiian Night on January 26th. So it should be an exciting month and a half here, basketball, hopefully deep into March. But it starts up this week as the Mustangs take on the Cougars from University of Sioux Falls on Tuesday, and then at Northern and at MSU Moorhead this weekend. We'll have all highlights from all three of those games and talk Mustang basketball next week on the Mustang Basketball with Brad Bigler here at Studio One and at SMSUMustangs.com. For the head coach, Brad Bigler, I'm Kelly Loft. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Until next time, go Mustangs!